What if I told you that a 5-year-old once became a mother? Or that a 70-year-old gave birth for the first time? Sounds impossible, right? Yet, these cases are real. Motherhood is often seen as one of life's greatest joys, but for some women, the journey is anything but ordinary. Some have defied medical science, others have faced unimaginable challenges, and a few have even made history. From the youngest mother ever recorded to a woman who gave birth to 9 babies at once, here are 20 of the most unusual mothers in the world. 1. Daria Suanishnikova, the 14-year-old mom, with a 10-year-old father. For most 14-year-olds, life revolves around school, friends, and hobbies. But for Daria Suanishnikova, her world changed overnight when she found out she was pregnant. The shocking part? She claimed that the father was her 10-year-old boyfriend, Ivan. This revelation sent shockwaves through Russia, where the case quickly became a national controversy. Experts and doctors immediately questioned whether a 10-year-old boy could even be biologically capable of fathering a child. As the media attention grew, people demanded answers. A DNA test was ordered, and the results were both heartbreaking and revealing. Ivan was not the father. Instead, it was discovered that Daria had been assaulted by an older teenager. To avoid the shame and stigma, she had fabricated the story, possibly as a way to protect herself from judgment. Daria's case brought international attention to the lack of support for teenage mothers and the importance of protecting young girls from abuse. But as shocking as her story is, it is not the only case of a child becoming a mother at an incredibly young age. 2. 12-year-old pregnant South African girl. Just when you think it cannot get any more shocking, a 12-year-old girl from South Africa took to social media to announce that she was pregnant. Even more surprising, she posed proudly with her 14-year-old boyfriend, both appearing unbothered by the storm their photos would create. People online were outraged. Many asked the same questions. Where are her parents? How is this legal? More importantly, does she even understand what it means to raise a child? The situation exposed a growing concern in many developing countries: the increasing number of child pregnancies. While some defended the couple by saying they were simply young and in love, others pointed out that children of this age are not mentally or financially prepared for parenthood. As the controversy grew, legal experts weighed in. Under South African law, a 12-year-old cannot legally consent to a relationship, raising serious concerns about whether this was a case of neglect or abuse. This case raised serious ethical questions. Should underage pregnancies be handled differently? How much responsibility falls on the parents? These are issues societies worldwide continue to grapple with. But not all young mothers face public ridicule. Some, like Olivia, found themselves pregnant during an entirely different crisis, the global pandemic. 3. Olivia, the pandemic cheerleader mom. For Olivia, an 18-year-old cheerleader, high school was supposed to be about competitions, friendships, and preparing for the future. Instead, her senior year took an unexpected turn. She found out she was pregnant during the pandemic. Unlike the young mothers before her, Olivia did not face the same level of public scrutiny. Due to lockdowns and school closures, she did not have to physically face judgment from classmates. However, her challenges were far from over. Online schooling became a nightmare for Olivia. Balancing pregnancy with virtual classes, doctor's appointments, and an uncertain future took a toll on her. Many of her classmates learned about her pregnancy through social media, but instead of receiving criticism, she found a surprising amount of support. Her biggest struggle was not public shame, it was adapting to a world that was already unpredictable. But despite everything, Olivia pushed through, determined to graduate and provide the best life for her child. While Olivia's experience was shaped by circumstances beyond her control, some pregnancies seem almost too perfectly timed. That is exactly what happened in the case of Jalen Crawford and her twin sister, who somehow managed to have babies at the exact same time. 4. Jalen Crawford and twin sisters' perfectly timed pregnancy. Twin sisters often share an unbreakable bond, but Jalen Crawford and her sister took things to an entirely new level. They had spent their entire lives dressing alike, thinking alike, and even finishing each other's sentences. But when they both got pregnant at almost the exact same time, people began to wonder, was this just an incredible coincidence, or was it planned? In June 2018, the sisters walked into a hospital in Arizona, ready to give birth on the same day. Nurses and doctors were baffled at how synchronized their pregnancies had been. Although they conceived 4 days apart, their babies arrived within hours of each other, making it seem almost intentional. But how likely is something like this to happen naturally? While some people believed it was purely fate, others speculated that the sisters might have planned their pregnancies together. It would not be surprising considering how closely they had lived their lives up until this point. The phenomenon of synchronized twin pregnancies is rare, but not impossible. Scientists believe that genetics and shared environments play a role, making twins more likely to experience major life events around the same time. While Jalen and her sister's case was rare, they were not the only siblings to experience pregnancy together. In fact, there is a family where 3 identical triplets managed to conceive within months of each other, taking sibling synchronization to a whole new level. 5. Gina, Nina, and Victoria, triplets who got pregnant together. For most siblings, life events like marriage or having children happen at different stages. But for triplet sisters Gina, Nina, and Victoria, things unfolded in a way that left many speechless. Not only did they all get pregnant around the same time, but they also gave birth just months apart. The sisters, who had always shared an incredibly close bond, shocked everyone when they revealed they were expecting together. While some people assumed it was planned, the reality is that their pregnancies happened naturally and almost simultaneously. They even took things a step further by wearing matching maternity outfits and documenting their journey together. One of the biggest questions people had was, how did their parents feel about it? While their family was thrilled, many wondered what would have happened if one of them had struggled to conceive while the others moved forward. Would it have changed their dynamic? The idea of triplets becoming mothers at nearly the same time is incredibly rare. But for these 3, it seemed like just another chapter in their already inseparable lives. But while their story was unusual, it was nothing compared to what happened to a woman who thought she was having one more baby but ended up with 5. 6. Amy Kemple, the woman who expected one more kid but got 5. For Amy Kemple and her husband Chad, the plan was simple: have one last child and complete their family. But what they got instead was something they never could have imagined. Amy became pregnant with quintuplets, turning their world upside down in an instant. At first, the news was overwhelming. How do you go from expecting one baby to preparing for 5? Everything had to change: their home, their budget, their entire lifestyle. Raising 3 kids had already been a challenge, but now they had to adjust to a family of 7. The pregnancy itself was risky. Carrying multiple babies at once increases the chances of complications, and Amy had to be closely monitored by doctors. Thankfully, all 5 babies were delivered safely, and the Kemple family quickly became known for their incredible story. To make things even more remarkable, Chad decided to take on a unique challenge, running a marathon while pushing all 5 babies in a stroller. He ended up setting a world record, proving that even with unexpected circumstances, their family was ready to take on anything. But as shocking as their experience was, they were not the only ones to have a life-changing surprise. 7. Megan Hewlin, the woman who wanted a daughter but got 5. Megan Hewlin had always wanted a daughter. As a mother of 2 boys, she longed for a baby girl to complete her family. When she got pregnant again, she hoped this time would be different. But fate had other plans. She was not just having another baby. She was about to have quintuplets. The moment she found out, Megan was in disbelief. She had gone from dreaming of one daughter to suddenly expecting 5 babies at once. The sheer logistics of preparing for 5 newborns were overwhelming. Diapers, formula, cribs, everything had to be multiplied by 5. Financially, it was a major challenge. Raising 7 kids meant making adjustments to every part of their lives. But the hardest part was the exhaustion that came after birth. Feeding 5 newborns, keeping up with sleepless nights, and managing 2 other children was far from easy. Through it all, Megan remained grateful. Even though she never got the baby girl she had hoped for, she embraced her role as the mother of a large and unique family. But while 5 babies is a lot, nothing compares to the woman who gave birth to 9 children at once. 8. Halima Kisei, the woman who gave birth to 9 children at once. Giving birth to twins is already rare. Having triplets or quadruplets is even more uncommon. But for Halima Kisei from Mali, her pregnancy was something no one had ever seen before. She was carrying 9 babies at the same time, a medical miracle that shocked even the most experienced doctors. When Halima first learned she was expecting, she thought she was having twins. But as her pregnancy progressed, doctors realized that she was carrying an unbelievable number of babies. Due to the high risk of complications, the Malian government stepped in, flying her to a specialized hospital in Morocco for proper care. The odds were stacked against her. Pregnancies with this many babies almost never result in all of them surviving. Yet, against all expectations, Halima successfully delivered 9 living babies. Each of them was born prematurely and required intensive medical care, but they defied the odds and continued to grow stronger. Her story quickly made headlines, breaking records for the most babies born alive in a single birth. However, raising 9 children came with incredible challenges. How do you feed, clothe, and care for so many babies at once? Thankfully, with government support and international attention, Halima received help to make sure her babies had the best chance at life. While Halima's case was a medical rarity, there were other mothers who challenged the limits of what was considered possible. One such woman was Julie Loving, a grandmother who stepped in to carry her own grandchild. 9. Julie Loving, the grandmother who carried her own grandchild. Most people assume that by the time a woman reaches her 50s, her days of carrying a child are long behind her. But Julie Loving defied expectations when she stepped up to become a surrogate mother for her own daughter. Her daughter, Brianna, had struggled with fertility issues for years. After suffering multiple miscarriages and failed IVF attempts, she had almost given up hope of ever having a child. That was when Julie made an extraordinary decision. She volunteered to carry the baby herself. At 51 years old, this was no small feat. Pregnancy at that age comes with significant health risks, and most doctors would advise against it. But Julie was determined. After undergoing medical evaluations, she was approved as a surrogate, and soon she was carrying her own grandchild. 9 months later, she gave birth to a healthy baby girl, proving that a mother's love truly has no limits. Her story captured the attention of many, showing just how far a parent would go to help their child experience the joy of motherhood. Julie's journey as a surrogate mother was incredibly rare, but she was not the only older woman to carry a baby in her later years. Christine Casey, at 61 years old, took on a similar role, making history as one of the oldest surrogate mothers in the world. 10. Christine Casey, the 61-year-old surrogate mother. Julie Loving's story was remarkable, but she was not the only mother who stepped in to help her daughter experience the joy of parenthood. Christine Casey, at 61 years old, did something just as extraordinary. She became a surrogate for her own child. At an age where most women are enjoying their grandchildren, Christine made a decision that would change her family's life forever. Her daughter, unable to carry a pregnancy due to medical reasons, had run out of options. That's when Christine, despite her age, offered to carry the baby herself. Medical experts warned of the risks. Pregnancy at 61 was not just uncommon, it was almost unheard of. The possibility of complications was high, but Christine was determined. After thorough medical screenings, doctors gave her the green light, and soon she was pregnant with her own grandchild. Her successful delivery made headlines, and she became one of the oldest surrogate mothers in history. Her story proved that a mother's love knows no limits and that sometimes family members will go to unbelievable lengths to support each other. But if Christine's age was surprising, another woman took things even further, becoming a first-time mother at 66 years old. 11. Adriana Iliescu, the 66-year-old, first-time mom. Most people assume that motherhood is something that happens earlier in life. But for Adriana Iliescu, the dream of becoming a mother did not fade with age. At 66 years old, she gave birth to her first child, making her one of the oldest first-time mothers in history. Adriana, a retired teacher from Romania, had always wanted children but had spent most of her life focusing on her career and studies. As the years passed, she still hoped to become a mother, even when many believed it was too late. That's when she turned to in vitro fertilization, IVF. a medical procedure that allowed her to conceive despite her advanced age. Her decision sparked widespread debate. Many questioned whether it was ethical for someone in their 60s to have a baby. Would she be able to care for her child long-term? Would the child grow up without a mother? These were concerns that many raised, but Adriana was determined to prove that age should not define motherhood. Despite the criticism, she remained committed to raising her daughter. Her story became a symbol of medical advancement and personal determination. But as rare as her case was, she was not the only woman to give birth later in life. Daljinder Kaur from India would push the boundaries of age even further, having her first child at 70. 12. Daljinder Kaur, the 70-year-old, who gave birth. Giving birth in your 60s is rare enough, but Daljinder Kaur's story shocked the world when she became a mother at 70 years old. This made her one of the oldest women in history to successfully give birth. For decades, Daljinder and her husband had longed for a child. They had tried everything, but nothing worked. In their community, being childless carried a heavy social stigma, and they often faced judgment for not having children. Even as they grew older, they never gave up hope. When they heard about IVF, they saw one last opportunity to fulfill their dream. Despite the risks, Daljinder underwent the procedure, and against all odds, she became pregnant. Many people were highly critical of her decision. At 70, how could she handle the demands of motherhood? What would happen when her child grew up? Some even accused the clinic of being irresponsible for approving the procedure. But Daljinder stood firm, believing that the birth of her son was a miracle. Her case raised serious ethical debates, but it also highlighted how far medical technology had come. While some women relied on science to become mothers at an older age, others challenged biological limits in completely different ways, like lifting weights while heavily pregnant. 13. Katya Harjan, the pregnant woman, who lifted 100 kg pregnancy is often associated with caution and rest. Most expecting mothers take it easy to ensure a healthy delivery. But Katya Harjan took a very different approach. At 8 months pregnant, she was lifting 100 kilograms at the gym. Katya had always been passionate about fitness. She had spent years building strength and maintaining a disciplined workout routine. So when she became pregnant, she saw no reason to stop. While most people expected her to slow down, she continued lifting heavy weights, even as her due date approached. Photos of her lifting while visibly pregnant sparked controversy online. Some people admired her dedication, while others were horrified, questioning whether it was safe for the baby. Doctors confirmed that her body was already adapted to weightlifting, and as long as she followed medical advice, there was no immediate danger. But this raised a larger debate. Should extreme physical activity during pregnancy be encouraged or discouraged? While Katya had the strength and experience to handle it, many worried that other women might try to copy her without proper precautions. Her story proved that motherhood does not always mean giving up personal goals. But while some women challenge physical limits during pregnancy, others push boundaries in a different way, like running a marathon with a baby in tow. 14. Jessica Bruce, the mom who ran a marathon. While pushing a stroller, running a marathon is already an impressive achievement. But running a marathon while pushing a stroller? That takes endurance to another level. Jessica Bruce did exactly that, setting a world record in the process. Just 6 months after giving birth, Jessica decided to compete in the Abingdon Marathon in England. She had always been a long-distance runner, and motherhood had not changed her love for the sport. But instead of leaving her baby at home, she brought him along, pushing the stroller for the entire race. She completed the marathon in 3 hours and 17 minutes, setting a new record for the fastest marathon run while pushing a stroller. Many were amazed at her strength and stamina, while others wondered how her baby remained calm for the entire race. According to Jessica, her son actually enjoyed the experience, sleeping through most of the run. Her story became an inspiration for mothers everywhere, proving that having a baby does not mean giving up on personal goals. While Jessica's marathon was physically demanding, some mothers faced an even greater challenge, giving birth while unconscious. This was exactly what happened to Kelsey Townsend, who went into a coma and woke up months later to meet her baby for the first time. 15. Kelsey Townsend, The mom who gave birth in a coma. Motherhood is challenging enough when everything goes as planned. But for Kelsey Townsend, nothing about her journey to becoming a mother was normal. She gave birth while in a coma, missing the first few months of her baby's life without even knowing it. Kelsey was in the final weeks of her pregnancy when she contracted COVID-19. Her condition deteriorated rapidly, and doctors had no choice but to place her in a medically induced coma to save her life. But there was one major complication. Her baby was due. While unconscious, Kelsey gave birth to her daughter, Lucy. But unlike most mothers, she was not there to hold her baby for the first time. Instead, she spent the next 3 months in a coma, battling for her life, while her family prayed she would wake up. When she finally regained consciousness, the first thing she saw was her baby. The moment was both emotional and surreal. She had given birth, but she had missed it entirely. Her story became a symbol of resilience, showing how far medical teams can go to save both mother and child. While Kelsey's story was one of survival, other mothers faced different kinds of physical challenges. Rose Siggins, for example, defied medical expectations when she became a mother despite being born without legs. 16. Rose Siggins, the mother without legs who defied science. For Rose Siggins, life was always about overcoming obstacles. Born with sacral agenesis, a rare disorder that prevented her lower spine and legs from fully developing, she had her lower body amputated at just 2 years old. Doctors believed she would struggle to live independently, let alone have children. But Rose proved them all wrong. Growing up, she refused to let her condition define her. She learned to move around on a skateboard instead of using prosthetic legs, adapting to life in her own way. When she fell in love and decided to start a family, many believed it was impossible for her to carry a pregnancy safely. But against all odds, Rose became pregnant and gave birth to a healthy child. Her story shattered misconceptions about disability and motherhood, proving that physical limitations do not always mean life limitations. Her journey was inspiring, but it was not without risks. Due to her condition, her pregnancy was far more complicated than most, requiring extensive medical monitoring. Yet she never let fear hold her back. Rose's story challenged the world's view of what is normal in motherhood. Another woman facing judgment, though for very different reasons, was Becky Holt, a mother covered in tattoos who fought against stereotypes every day. 17. Becky Holt, the tattooed mom. Fighting stereotypes, people have all kinds of expectations about what a mother should look like. But Becky Holt has spent years challenging those ideas. Covered in tattoos from head to toe, she has faced relentless criticism for her appearance, especially after becoming a mother. Becky, who has spent thousands of dollars on tattoos, is 95% covered in ink. While tattoos are more widely accepted today, many still believe that heavily tattooed women should not be mothers. She has been judged by other parents, stared at in public, and even told that she is setting a bad example for her child. But Becky refuses to let others define her. She insists that tattoos do not change who she is as a mother. She loves and cares for her child just like any other parent, and she believes that self-expression has nothing to do with parenting ability. Her case sparked a larger debate. Should society dictate what a proper mother looks like? Becky continues to challenge those stereotypes, proving that motherhood comes in many different forms. But while she battled social judgment, Ada Keating made headlines for a completely different reason, moving into a nursing home to care for her 80-year-old son. 18. Ada Keating, the 98-year-old mother who moved into a nursing home to care for her 80-year-old son. Most people expect that as parents age, their children will eventually take care of them. But for Ada Keating, motherhood never stopped, not even at 98 years old. When her son Tom moved into a nursing home, she decided to move in with him to continue looking after him. Tom, who was 80 at the time, needed extra care due to his health. But instead of letting him face it alone, Ada made the selfless decision to join him. For Ada, it did not matter that her son was a grown man, he was still her child, and she wanted to be there for him. 18. Ada Keating, the 98-year-old mother who moved into a nursing home to care for her 80-year-old son. Most people expect that as parents age, their children will eventually take care of them. But for Ada Keating, motherhood never stopped, not even at 98 years old. When her son Tom moved into a nursing home, she decided to move in with him to continue looking after him. Tom, who was 80 at the time, needed extra care due to his health. But instead of letting him face it alone, Ada made the selfless decision to join him. For Ada, it did not matter that her son was a grown man, he was still her child, and she wanted to be there for him. Their bond was touching and rare. While most elderly parents rely on their children for support, this was the opposite. The staff at the nursing home were amazed at their connection, noting that Ada continued to do motherly things like reminding Tom to take his medicine and ensuring he was comfortable. Their story became a heartwarming example of how a mother's love never fades, no matter how much time passes. But while Ada's story was about lifelong care, Christiane Ray's journey was about proving the world wrong when she became a mother against all medical expectations. 19. Christiane Ray, the tiny woman who defied medical science to have a baby. Christiane Ray grew up knowing she was different. She had a rare condition that stunted her growth, keeping her at a height of just 3 feet. Throughout her life, doctors told her she would never be able to safely carry a child. The risks were too high and her body simply was not built for pregnancy. But Christiane refused to accept that. When she fell in love and decided to start a family, she knew the journey would not be easy. Doctors warned her that carrying a pregnancy to term could be life-threatening, but she was determined to try. Defying all expectations, Christiane successfully gave birth to a healthy baby. It was a moment that shocked the medical world. A woman who was not supposed to be able to have children had done the impossible. Her story was a testament to the power of human resilience. She proved that despite medical limitations, sometimes the will to become a mother is stronger than any diagnosis. And while Christiane's case was extraordinary, there was one final mother who set a record of her own, giving birth to 9 children at once. 20. Lena Medina, the youngest mother in history. Some stories are so unbelievable that they sound impossible. But the case of Lena Medina is not just rare, it is the youngest recorded case of motherhood in human history. At just 5 years old, Lena gave birth, leaving the medical world stunned and raising questions that remain to this day. Lena was born in a small village in Peru. When she was only 5 years old, her parents noticed that her stomach was unusually swollen. Fearing she had a tumor, they took her to the hospital. But what doctors discovered was beyond comprehension. She was 7 months pregnant. Her case defied logic. At such a young age, the human body is not physically developed enough for pregnancy. But medical tests confirmed that Lena had a rare hormonal condition known as precocious puberty, meaning she had reached reproductive maturity at an extremely young age. On 14 May 1939, Lena gave birth via cesarean section to a healthy baby boy, making her the youngest mother ever recorded. Due to her young age, her body was too small for a natural birth. Her son, named Gerardo, grew up believing that Lena was his sister until he was told the truth later in life. The most disturbing mystery of this case remains: who was the father? Despite investigations, Lena never revealed what had happened or how she had become pregnant. Some believed she may not have even understood what had been done to her. Lena's case remains one of the most medically perplexing and tragic stories in history. She went on to live a private life, never seeking fame despite the worldwide attention her case received. Her story is a chilling reminder of how complex and, at times, disturbing the history of motherhood can be. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have come this far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.